So, who is worse, Frank Turek or William Lane Craig? Or maybe it's the clueless religious zealots who take any of this absurd nonsense seriously. Let's go find out. I did this not too long ago for William Lane Craig, so I thought I'd take a look at Frank Turek, another well-known Christian apologist who, if you've seen any of his videos, you know what a complete lunatic he is. But because he's preaching to the choir, a choir that is gullible and uncritical of anything he says, he figures he can get away with anything and still get paid. So let's watch Frank answer a question from a clueless Christian, and why Frank is much more clueless, or maybe just more dishonest, than your average bear.
How do you concisely show an atheist or agnostic that they hold beliefs as well? So a lot of times they just say that you just have beliefs and I don't have those beliefs. But how do you concisely, just in one statement, show them that they actually hold beliefs and that those beliefs are blind faith?
Well, you can't, because that simply isn't true. At least not in my case, and since I can only really speak for myself, that's what I'm going with. But really, this whole question is problematic because instead of recognizing your own blind faith from the religious side, you are simply accusing the other side of doing the same thing to avoid being criticized for something that you, the theist, are doing wrong in the first place. And this is nothing new. It's something I've pointed out numerous times. But the theist can't understand that even if the opposition is doing the same thing wrong that you are, that's not a license to do things wrong. Jeez, these people.
Well, you'd have to be on some sort of topic like, do you believe, I might ask them, do you believe there's an immaterial realm, or do you believe everything's just made of molecules? I would just ask that question.
So far as we have any evidence, everything certainly seems to be made of molecules, or you get the general idea. Of course, you'd have to define what you mean by immaterial. Do you mean supernatural? Then no, we have no evidence or reason to think that exists. But sure, let's watch Frank completely screw this up.
If they say everything's just made of molecules, I would ask them, is that statement that you just made of molecules?
Absolutely. It came from my brain, which is made of molecules. It was transmitted through the air, which is made of molecules, to your eardrums, which are made of molecules, and sent to your brain, which is made of molecules, to be interpreted. Dude, it's molecules all the way down.
So just trying to, again, like you said yesterday, flip the question on them.
Yeah, because everybody, even though they may claim that everything's made of molecules, they don't live like that.
Absolutely we do. And you notice that Frank isn't trying to actually prove that the things he believes are true. He's trying to shift the burden of proof so that he can hide from his responsibility to show that what he believes on blind faith is reasonable or rational. And this is very common among the ridiculously religious. People who have no good reason to think that the things they desperately want to be true actually are. But yes, I do act as though everything is made of molecules, or whatever euphemism you want to use, because that's where the evidence leads.
Because they don't think, for example, their spouse or their children are just a bag of chemicals.
Right.
In any real sense, yes, they are. Just like I am. Just like you are. My wife is a bag of chemicals. My kids are a bag of chemicals. And I have no problem thinking that way rationally.
Right? They think that they're special human beings.
They can be bags of chemicals that I personally think are special to me. Not special universally, but special to me because of my commitment to them in my brain, which again is made of molecules.
And they believe in love. In fact, in one of the debates I had with Christopher Hitchens, someone from the audience asked Christopher, what is love?
Well, I can answer that. Love is an electrochemical reaction in the brain. We know this, and we can prove it with fMRI scans. That doesn't make it any less valuable to someone in a subjective sense than to some crazy theist who thinks the whole thing is magical. Love is something we've evolved to feel that makes the human community and human family unit more cohesive.
What is it ontologically? In other words, how would you describe love? And Hitchens finally had to admit that according to him, love was a chemical.
And he was right. Love is an electrochemical reaction in the brain. It is responsible for releasing feel-good chemicals such as endorphins, oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine. It's why you feel the way that you feel when you're in love, because your brain is causing all of these chemicals into your bloodstream. But the religious want it to be magic. They don't care what's actually going on. They care that their emotions are being catered to. That's why the religious are idiots.
That it caused you to act in a certain way towards somebody else.
Because it did. Why is this a problem? Oh, right, it doesn't make you happy to deal with reality on reality's terms.
And I said, go home and tell that to your wife, right?
And if I did that, she'd understand because she deals with reality too. Of course, this is really just an argument from consequences that the claim must be wrong because the consequences of the claim might not be pleasant. So what? Even if your wife got mad at you, the claim is still factually true. This is a fallacy for a reason, but Frank Turek and other crazy apologists are masters of the logical fallacy.
I just got the chemical today, honey. Tomorrow I might not have it.
Which isn't how brain chemistry works. But who would expect someone with an imaginary friend operating on pure emotion to know that?
And if that's the case, if you think about this, if love is just a chemical, then how can you hold anybody responsible for anything?
I don't know what love has to do with anything, but even if you want to say that everything you do is because of chemicals, you still have the ability to override the electrochemical signals in your brain and choose to do otherwise. That's why we hold people responsible for their actions, because no matter what they might feel they should do, they have the rational ability to choose what they do and are accountable to the laws, rules, and conventions of society. But let's look at this another way. Christians believe that their imaginary friend is all-knowing, meaning that God knew before you were even born every single thing that you would do in your life with perfect clarity, and God can never be wrong. Therefore, it is utterly impossible for you to be responsible for anything in your life because it's all been predetermined by God. You are predestined to do everything that you do in life and cannot conceivably change anything. Yet another case where the arbitrarily assigned omniscient characteristic totally blows away Christianity.
In fact, if we're not moral creatures that make moral choices, how can we hold anybody morally accountable for everything they do? I mean, Hitler just had bad molecules, right?
No. God knew Hitler would do what he did, and he let him do it anyway. That God of yours is a bastard.
Yeah.
According to that theory of materialism.
Exactly.
According to the arbitrary characteristics that you've decided to hang on your imaginary friend.
I appreciate it. Thank
All
you
right.
much.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. You made Turek look like a dishonest, irrational charlatan once again, because that's exactly what he is. He's an ignorant hypocrite who knows nothing of science or biology or physics or, let's be honest, pretty much anything. He doesn't even understand his own theology. He's tossing around straw men like they're going out of style, and if you dare to point any of this out to him, he rationalizes his way around it. Just like most apologists, he's only concerned with talking to the already religious because he could never survive a straight-up encounter with a well-educated and rational atheist. I mean, this was a 2.5-minute video, and I've got no problem pointing out all of the things that Frank Turek has done wrong, mostly because everything that Frank Turek does is wrong. And this is really, really typical for your standard religious apologists, but people like William Lane Craig and Frank Turek and other really well-known apologists, they take religious stupidity to a whole new level. Because they know that their audience isn't going to ask any questions. They're not going to disagree, and they sure aren't going to think too hard about any of the crazy nonsense that Frank says from the stage. So Frank can just say whatever Looney Tune craziness that comes into his brain, and the audience is going to lap it up. Because the core principle of religion is not questioning the crazy. It's what leads to so many abuses. And I think Frank knows this, which is why he's able to con people into paying him so much money and providing such a load of bullcrap in return. Because Frank, in addition to being an idiot, is also a con man. I trust no one is surprised.